Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member, for holding this, and thank you, of course, to our witnesses today. I represent 772,047 people in a very rural district of Missouri, the 4th Congressional District, and rural health care is kind of at a crisis point, I think, in America. Facing the continuing health care crisis, providers being forced to shut down or withhold the vital services they provided to communities they serve. Rural Americans are uniquely vulnerable to the downstream effects of the regulatory burden being forced upon the healthcare industry. That's why I'm glad we're having this hearing today, Mr. Chairman. We have visited numerous hospitals in our district. We've heard firsthand the impact regulations have had on small businesses in our district. When rural providers are forced to shut down, it can leave their patients stranded hours away from the health care that they need and that they deserve. While telehealth is helping meet some of those needs, only 22% of our constituents in our district have high-speed internet that's capable of taking part in this technology. So, Dr. Eagle, I want to start with you. You talked about how difficult it was to maintain your independent practice, that you eventually was forced to join a large hospital system. It's something I hear from my constituents as well. They're worried they won't be able to continue their small practices that serve rural Americans. Why is it so difficult to maintain a small practice, especially in rural America?
I think the two primary drivers, thank you for the question, are economics and regulations. I think that, the practice I had in North Carolina was more suburban than rural, but I think the problems are largely similar. I think rural practices, suffer from all the same problems that the other practices do, but, regulation is harder to manage in those situations, and reimbursement has been declining for those private offices the same as everybody else. And I can't speak as an expert on rural medicine in that regard because I've never practiced in a truly rural setting, but I think the problems are the same there. It's just harder to solve.
Dr. Miller, another concern I've heard about from my constituents is about CMS's efforts on this great idea of decarbonization. We got to decarbonize healthcare. At a time when rural hospitals are struggling to keep their doors open, CMS, I was being flippant there if you didn't know that, is releasing guidance asking hospitals and healthcare providers to monitor and address their emissions. This is a slap in the face to rural hospitals in my district. In fact, the Golden Valley Memorial Hospital in Clinton, Henry County, told me that to replace a single boiler with a clean alternate that the CMS wants is going to be $3 million. $3 million. Do you think that CMS is fulfilling their statutory duties in attempting to browbeat hospitals into decarbonizing?
Absolutely not. That's completely out of scope for CMS.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a long history of using the conditions of participation in Medicare to attach a favored regulation. And CMS's primary goal should be to assist in running the state Medicaid programs and run Medicare. It is not an environmental regulator and should not be.
Thank you. Dr. Eagle, back to you. I've often heard from small rural hospitals that are really struggling this year. I visited the Bates County Memorial Hospital, a great crew there, a small facility in Butler, Missouri, and they told me that in 2022 they lost nearly $2 million providing for Medicare patients. I know we have some bills out there that are going to help with the reimbursements. But what do we do in the meantime? How can these small hospitals and doctors who want to serve, truly, it's almost a ministry to them out in the rural communities, how do they stay alive?
No, thank you for that question. I cannot speak as an expert on hospital administration, but I think that programs like 340B are designed to support, programs, hospitals like those. And I think that, redesigning that program to actually truly meet the hospitals that need the funds would be a step in the right direction.
Well, thank you. I truly think this is a very important hearing that we're having today, and I thank you for being here. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
When he yields back, I now recognize